The only constant is change. You can change anything. You can change. And everything. You can change your mind. You can change. You can change your heart. You can change your life. Like a butterfly.
Morning, everyone. How are you?
Good.
Yes. Wake up. Are we awake? Yes. Hey, girl. Hey. Yes. This is going to be. Listen. This is going to be much about you as it is about me. Because I tell you, I've traveled around. I've spoken in so many universities and so many rooms, and I can't tell you enough. This is probably my most favorite thing to do. Even with the acting, I have to say, being in front of you all, because every single room I go into is unique. Every single person that's in the room is bringing different things from their backgrounds. And so for me, that means every time we create a space and we create a talk, how it goes down, the Q&A, it's all unique. So I want you to listen to the things that I'm talking about, because most of the things that I'm talking about are literally a reflection. I am standing up here right now as a huge mirror, a beautiful black mirror. Yeah, now. But a huge mirror that's only reflecting pieces to you. So there are going to be pieces that sort of vibrate with you, some that may not. Drop it, go ahead, let it go. And some pieces you're going to take in, and then when we get to the Q&A session, that'll be your moment. Some of you are going to have some burning questions, you want something to ask. I, travel through spaces of racial justice, social justice, gender justice, folks who are looking to get into the tech industry, folks who are looking to get into the entertainment industry. So there's a wide range of questions people might have. Transition questions. I open myself completely up to you in this space. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I identify as a woman. I'm a woman. In certain spaces, I tack on the identifier that I'm a trans woman. When we were having conversations, I just was honored at the Essence Black Women in Hollywood with the cast of Pose. That was such a beautiful space to be in. And I definitely was getting very teary-eyed on that stage as it was all going down. What people don't always understand is how much pioneers kind of go through. People who are pioneering a space. Yes, I'm used to being dragged by now. It still doesn't make it any funner when it happens. I'm used to certain type of dragging, but certain type of dragging gets old. The ignorant dragging gets old. I just want to throw a fucking, excuse me. I just want to throw a damn encyclopedia at somebody. Like, read a book! Please, read a book. I'm so tired. And I recognized in that room that what I need to do, what I encourage you to do, is focus on the love that is there. Because that is how what you focus on expands. Because the reality is, in that room, there were some women that just weren't there yet. And I could feel it. We all could feel it. I could see it. I saw people on the internet comment just because they could see it over in the audience. And what I've realized is, instead of focusing on those folks, instead of belaboring on the folks in the comment section, I don't have the time. The bank closes at 4. So what I will do is drop a nugget of knowledge and keep it moving and focus on the love that is there. And those are the relationships that I build with folks. Those are the people I focus on, the fans, the people who do love when I post and do all those things. Other people may be like, God, girl, didn't you just post 5 minutes ago? Those ain't your friends. But focus on the love and the people that are just waiting to see what you're going to do next. Now, I have this 10,000 hours slide up here because, again, the difference between me also and many other trans folks in my community is I've had the privilege to put in more than 10,000 hours into my craft. And there's a book, how many of you have heard of Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell? And so it talks about what it means to be a genius. And after I read it, I was like, oh my God, I'm a genius. I knew it, but now I got the definition. He told me. And all it is, it's not some magic formula. It's not in your DNA. It's just that someone like Mozart locked himself away in a room for over 10,000 hours to get to that greatness. Bill Gates and the coding, over 10,000 hours. Maya Angelou and writers, over 10,000 hours. Kobe Bryant, over 10,000 hours. And yet folks create an Instagram account and Twitter account and think it's popping in 2 seconds. That ain't how it works, baby. You got to put in that 10,000 hours. Well, okay. So now we got to realize that some spaces are so violent that some people can't even get in to put in the hours. I know I had that struggle. So when you look at sort of this is kind of screenshots from my LinkedIn, profile. And, you see, now I'm the president of Miss Ross Inc., because we do that. Thank you. You can round of applause for that. And the reason why I say that, too, is about putting stock in your own name. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. And then founder and CEO of Transtech Social Enterprises. Before that, I worked at Chicago House as a TransWorks coordinator. Before that, I was working for 10 years on my own doing freelance graphic design, web development, Photoshop, photography, anything kind of techie I could get my hands on. As long as they didn't need to know what I looked like, they didn't need to know my ID, they didn't need to know what I sounded like, as long as I could do the work. So it was sort of a blueprint that I ended up creating from that time to create Transtech and TransWorks. But before that, you'll see, okay, I worked at the Mac store, I worked as a sales rep at BB, Slade. I worked as a realtor, Slade that too. But what's missing on there is the adult website I was posting on. What's missing on there is all these transferable skills. This is what I like to call them. I learned from this time, what happened to me is that I was being trafficked. And the thing about trafficking, sex trafficking, is that there's an element to it that people don't really quite understand, and it's called, it's where there's a high level of coercion, where it talks about, what else you gonna do, bitch? You can't speak the language, or you don't have the proper documentation to get that job, or you're trans and they're gonna keep firing you every time that comes up. What you gonna do? What else you gonna do? And so many of us at a certain time of our society really were trafficked into this space. But how my spirituality is set up and how I know that things were set up for me from the get-go was that it was meant for me to go on this journey. It was meant for me to be in this space, and from within that space to find the solution. It's hard for people to create solutions from the outside looking in when people don't have no experience or know-how about what the life is even about. So I needed to be someone who could stand here today looking like I do, with all the privilege that I have now and experience, where people will easily forget that I once posed on a website, that I once sold my abs, and still will if it gets to World War II and World War III, whatever, and things go down and things hit the fan, honey. My house in Atlanta will become the best courthouse in Atlanta. I won't be a broke bitch. But I got options. And that's what it's about, is having options. And what I realized is that the girls could start to begin to determine, self-determine, not just their gender identity, but their value. And in doing so, for me, it started from the streets. It started from saying 150. It started from saying 250 to 500 to 1,000 to, no, that's all right. So that's all, like, people are gonna always underestimate your value. But you've gotta, one thing you gotta do, I do it through my Buddhist practice. We chant every day, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, during, I chant at this scroll, and we call it it's like a mirror. And as I'm doing that, I'm polishing the mirror so that I can see myself, my environment, and my circumstances clearly, regardless of whatever else is going on. Then I go through my whole day, and people are talking crap on Twitter, and people are talking crap in the world, and there's smog and traffic and all these things. And I come home at the end of the day, and I'm bringing into my space energy that is kind of like got on me, you know what I'm saying, from coming through the world. So I sit back down in front of the thing and I chant, and I polish it so that I can see things clearly. Not with the film of the world, of the anxiety and all these things, but like, let me put that stress behind, let me put these things behind and see my beautiful puppy. And see that my plant is dying, I need to water it. You know what I'm saying? Like, see that I need to pay attention to the environment I'm in. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of, like, I talked about accountability. Yes, we're just gonna get to some questions. So now,
like a butterfly, like a butterfly, like a butterfly. Ever thought about starting your own podcast? Well, now it's easier than ever with Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop to record, edit, and distribute your very own podcast. On top of it all, it's absolutely free and easy to use. You can use it right from your phone or your computer. Plus, Anchor will match you with sponsors so you can get paid. You hear me? Paid to do your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. I use Anchor right now recording this podcast. So go over to anchor.fm and get started right away. What are you waiting for?
how many of you have seen Pose? Yeah. Are all of y'all caught up on Pose? Yes. Okay, so y'all seen season 2. Wait, who ain't seen season 2 yet? Don't oh! Don't say.
We get in there.
Okay, no spoiler alerts. No spoiler. Okay, no spoilers. Okay, so folks who are asking questions, please keep it cute. Because we don't want to spoil it for anybody, okay? So who's first? Who has a question? There we go, in the back. Yes, I'm loving everything about you. Stand up.
My name is Talia. I go to Tulane University. My question is, how do you deal with your intersectionality being Black and trans and women?
So the question is, how do I deal with my intersectionality, being Black, being trans, and being female? Well, I have learned, and I learned this honestly, and I learned this as an adult. I learned this maybe just a couple years ago when Janet Mock released her second book, Surpassing Certainty. And she talked about that the fact that now she is able to bring her entire self into the room. When I was shooting Claws, season 1 of Claws, I realized when I was in New Orleans, and I was kind of around everybody. I was around the Queen Sugar cast. I was around the Claws cast. There were just so many black folks, you know, that you love, that you've always known and seen on TV, and y'all are colleagues, right? So I'm walking into the space with my sis assuming privilege. And the thing about privilege is sometimes you don't want to let go of it. Sometimes I just want to just be in the space. Yes, I'm just a sickening girl. You don't need to know no more. Like, you don't need to know no more. I don't want to disclose any more to you right now. I just want to go on what you feeling. You know, what you're seeing. That's all. But again, bringing the conversation back to value, where I may have a situation that looks like, here's this bag of whatever, and if you do this, this is really valuable. And really being put in a situation where I get to practice something different that says, actually, if you bring your full self into the room, you'll see that even though some people may respond differently to you or whatever, the interaction will be way more valuable to you and to them because it is authentic. So the objective is to be authentic, is to bring all of those pieces into the room so that when we are having conversations, folks in my community will stop getting it twisted that being black and being LGBTQ are mutually exclusive. They separate things. While I'm standing here, full-blown black trans woman. But they wouldn't know that if I didn't bring my full self into the room, Pete Buttigieg. And no, because I know there were some people on Twitter trying to drag me, so this is to you. No, I don't believe there's one way to be anything. Gay, lesbian, bi, pansexual, straight, all the things. Gender non-conforming. I'm trying not to figure, it's a list. Y'all help me. No, I don't think it's one way to be any of that. But if you call yourself being a leader, to apply for a job of being one of our world leaders, let alone, bitch, you say you got a card to this community and you can't talk the talking points from this community? You don't understand that you don't need to go down to Atlanta, to Louisiana, to Alabama and take a photo op at a black college to have a black conversation. You can come right here in an LGBTQ and have a black conversation. We need leaders who can be intersectional flawlessly, who don't feel like it's a problem. You know what I mean. Gay, it's all the same. No, it's not the same. No, same-sex marriage is not the same. Because depending on what my right now, my birth certificate still says male on it. So when my trans ass goes to get married, I'm not sure what the situation is going to be. Because no, I don't want a same-sex certificate. I'm not a man. I'm a woman. You know what I'm saying? Y'all can clap. Hello.
Hi. My name's Roki, and how do I want to say this? So in Pose, the characters go through a lot, right? And that's set in a completely different time period, but I'm pretty sure there's accuracy in that, a lot of accuracy. But being gay now, I still face some like certain issues that they face in the show. So how would you say we have improved or not improved, like just based off of like what happened back then and what's happening now? Yes. Especially like in the perspective of the trans woman.
I'm going to tell you the biggest improvement, I know hands down what it's been. The biggest improvement and change has happened between the 1980s time when Pose is talking about and even getting to the 90s and now is that white, gay, and lesbians, and specifically the white gay boys, have been called out for claiming to have black women inside them, first of all. And secondly, for conflating the struggles of Rosa Parks and Dr. King with the LGBTQ struggles. They're not to be compared. They're not to be conflated. And the biggest difference is that, again, when I went into the Creating Change and the Racial Justice Institute trainings and things like that with the task force, we're talking about all of the major like nonprofits that are dealing with in LGBTQ spaces. We were going head on in conversations around anti-blackness. And so what was happening was all of a sudden, white CEOs, girl, not just the, the RuPaul Drag Race twinks, but the CEOs, child. The CEOs were just now being sort of faced with the fact that they had anti-blackness. They thought everyone was skipping over the rainbow. San Francisco, you have so many gay people who refer to San Francisco as the gay Mecca and don't understand it's the gay Mecca for white people. It ain't places where I can twerk to Megan Thee Stallion. Hey, 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 hey. I got them knees. Come on, girl, your knees. You know? So the biggest difference is our ability to be able to call an accountability to our white, gay, and lesbian, and non-binary, and trans folks. Because even as it's come to the trans conversation, folks want to play in my face with Caitlyn Jenner. Folks want to play in my face early on, though. Because I know now everybody gets it. Now everybody got something to say about Kate. Now everybody's got it. But when Angelica was calling it out in the beginning, I'm the hater. I'm the person who doesn't, wow, this infighting. Why can't we just whatever? It's not infighting, because you're only seeing an edited version of the conversation. I had a full-on conversation with her. I tried to educate her, and they edited a completely different story. So me going to drag her, don't talk about it. I'm doing this like y'all don't know the full story. I guess I'll tell y'all later, but I'm still gonna drag her right now. Right. Cause I know eventually eventually the information trickles down and y'all get it. But right now I gotta handle business. It's really one of those things, because if I didn't do that, from Caitlyn Jenner down, what happens is they start putting white gender nonconforming, white trans people as representatives for the community, and you have folks who are getting all teary-eyed. When we talk about Trans Day of Remembrance, the white folks around that holiday were sort of co-opting it in a way to then talk about all of these suicides. Why is this important? All loss of life is important, and we need to acknowledge all of the conditions that have been created to have people, whether they voluntarily or involuntarily, lose their lives. But there is a line, there's an intersection that happens of like respectability is kind of nasty. We somehow respect people more. We respect the trans people more who committed suicide than the tons of trans women of color who have been killed, and they're asking, well, what were they doing? What you mean, what were they doing? First of all, last time I checked, ain't this the LGBT community? Ain't we the ones fighting for sexual liberation? For autonomy? Weren't y'all boys the same ones going up in arms when they went after rentboy.com? Go to the gay bars. Go to a lot of these gay neighborhoods and see how the gay, white, buff porn stars are treated like celebrities. But the black trans porn stars are treated like a nuisance. So, if we think that the outside world, folks who are not in the LGBT community are going to respect us and know what's up, then the folks inside the community need to respect us and know what's up.
Like a butterfly, like a butterfly, like a butterfly.
So, how did your experience on Pose impact your life?
How did my experience on Pose impact my life?
Yeah.
It has completely changed my life. Plain candy has changed my life. Yes, it's a candy. Without giving any spoilers. No one will ever know what it feels like to go through that experience and trying to tell a story that is supposed to be history, but is so current. I'm locked away for 16 hours a day filming, and that episode was so heavy while I'm getting news that another trans girl has been murdered and another trans girl has been murdered. So all I could do was put my all into that performance so that it would ripple across the world and change people's hearts. And I have felt that. It's in my DMs, it's in my Twitter, people are tagging me. I haven't seen the episode since because every time I try, it breaks me down. But I know that I did something good. Regardless of if I have a statue or an award for it, I know that I did something good. So it changed my life in that way. Question here.
I'm Mia. I'm from the illustrious Dillard University. But my question was, I noticed you said you were Buddhist. My question is, how did you come about your whole spiritual journey?
You know, sometimes it's a privilege. My spiritual journey came from the fact that I was ousted from my own spiritual home. And that was a blessing. Sometimes, you know, even when folks realize that they're LGBTQ or they're anything other than the norm, it's a blessing because what ends up happening in this short span of time, you're disconnected from, it's like in the Matrix or, you know, in certain things, you're disconnected from the program. And then all of a sudden, you're introducing fruit in the space of like, I am not that. But what happens many times is that people get sort of trapped into another identity space. So once they say they're not that, then they find another label, gay, trans, this, that, and the other, and now I'm this, or Buddhist, Christian, what have you. And so when I started out, being ousted from the Christian space in the way that I did got me to a space where I could look more closely at the situation. Does this make sense? This don't even make sense. And once I realized that I felt the, what you call it God, I felt the energy in me. So I knew whatever they were saying couldn't completely account for what was going on within me, so they weren't giving me a correct teaching or foundation to go with it. And so I ended up finding Buddhism just through sort of breadcrumbs. First, The Voice of Knowledge by Don Miguel Ruiz, and then The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and then The Power of Now, and then A New Earth, and then started studying Zen Buddhism and looking into certain things, and then finally discovered Nichiren Buddhism. Well after I had seen the movie What's Love Got to Do with It.
Yes.
And when I saw the movie What's Love Got to Do with It, when I saw that movie, how many of you seen that movie What's Love Got to Do with It?
Yes.
If you haven't, you need to go see it. And the reason why I need you to go see it, because one, then you'll know Angela Bassett was cheated.
Yes.
Cheated. She should have won every award that was available. I don't know how old she was, but she played from 16 to 40.
Come on now. Come on now. Yeah.
She slayed.
Right.
But when they focused on her Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, when they focused on when she was chanting, what you saw happening was her friend introduced her to the practice, introduced her to chanting. She did, what is this you're saying, Nam Myoho? I don't even know what you're saying. But Nam Myoho, she starts doing it, and she's doing this slow Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Then it goes into the next scene, and she's back saying, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge. Then she's about to go on stage, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge. And she's like, and you see it's picking up the pace. And as they're illustrating this in the story, what you're seeing is she's building up the capacity and the momentum to fight back for her life, for the catapulting moment where she's in the back of the limo with Ike Turner, and he pops her hard. Because that's what life is going to do, smack the shit out of you.
Like a butterfly, like a butterfly, like a butterfly.
Like, bitch, I'm ready. And fight back. And she said, I don't want nothing from you but my name. For folks who understand their value so much that I don't need any of this external stuff. Don't need your approval. I don't need your stamp. All I need is my name. And if you learn how to have stock in that, and how to have faith in that, and how to stand in that, and know your power in that, that's how you connect to the God-like power. God is, I'm not Christian, but I get to speak in those terms. If you want to access that power, you better stop looking outside yourself, because it ain't there. The power is always within you.